If you are over 60 and you have adult children, there is a good chance something in your life right now feels off, and you cannot quite put your finger on why. You are not sick, nothing dramatic has happened, but you are tired in a way that sleep does not fix. You have been putting your own needs last so long, it does not even feel like a choice anymore. And somehow, even though you are doing everything for your family, you feel like you are slowly disappearing. I want to talk about why that is happening, because it is not aging. Not really. It is 4 specific things that loving, well-meaning seniors do for their adult children that are quietly draining their health, their energy, and their sense of self. And I am going to name all 4 of them plainly. Then I am going to walk you through 5 limits that start to change that. Not overnight, not perfectly, but in a way that is realistic and actually sustainable. This channel is called Life Advice for Older People, and this is exactly the kind of conversation we have here. If you are new, subscribe before you keep watching, because what is coming over the next few weeks is some of the most honest content we have made. Now let us get into this. Here is the thing about the seniors I am describing. They are not victims, they are not weak, they are genuinely good people who love their families deeply. And that is exactly what makes this so hard to see from the inside. Picture someone you might know, or maybe it is you. They raised their kids, they were there through the hard years, and now those kids are grown with their own lives, their own problems, their own families, and this senior is still there. Still answering the calls, still solving the problems, still the person everyone turns to when something goes wrong. From the outside, they look dependable, devoted, like the backbone of the family, but inside they are worn down to something they do not recognize. Their sleep is not right, their health has been quietly sliding. They are canceling their own appointments to be available for everyone else. They stop doing the things that used to bring them joy, not because they decided to, but because somewhere along the way there stopped being room for any of it. And the part that stays with me is this. They do not understand why they feel this way, because they have been doing everything a good parent is supposed to do. This is where most people get it wrong. They think the exhaustion comes from getting older, but what is actually happening is more specific than that and more fixable. It comes from 4 patterns that are draining them in ways they have never been told about directly. Let us go through them one by one. The first one is chronic financial rescuing, and I want you to hear this with some grace toward yourself, because it almost never starts big. It starts with a car repair, then a short month with rent, then a credit card that is about to go to collections, then a medical bill, or school fees for the grandkids, or another emergency that just cannot wait. And every single time you help because you love them, because you can, or you think you can, because watching your child struggle when you have something to give feels unbearable. But here is what is happening underneath all of that giving that nobody is talking about. You are now quietly managing your retirement around their instability. And most of the time, you are doing it alone, because you never wanted them to feel guilty, so you absorbed it quietly, you adjusted the numbers, you moved things around, and told yourself it was fine. It is not fine, and your body knows it even when your mind is still convincing itself otherwise. When you carry financial stress quietly, even when you never say a word about it to anyone, your body stays in a low-grade state of alarm. Cortisol, your main stress hormone, stays elevated, and when cortisol is elevated consistently over months and years, it disrupts your sleep, weakens your immune system, increases inflammation throughout your body, and accelerates the very cellular aging process that determines how fast you get old. This is not about blame, it is biology, and it is playing out in real time in the bodies of generous, loving seniors across this country. The reason people do not stop is understandable. Saying no feels like abandonment, and no loving parent wants to carry that feeling, but here is what nobody says out loud. Giving money you cannot truly afford to give is not pure generosity. It is fear wearing the face of love, and it is costing you more than money. It is costing you years. The second thing will sound familiar to a lot of grandparents, and I want to say up front, I know how much you love those grandchildren. This is not a criticism of that love. The second pattern is being the on-call, always available, no schedule needed babysitter. Here is what this usually looks like. Monday morning the phone rings. Can you take the kids today? And you say yes. Of course you say yes. Tuesday, they need you again. Wednesday runs long. By Thursday, you have not slept well, your back is aching, you cancelled a doctor's appointment you waited 3 weeks for, and you have not had a quiet hour to yourself in days. Next Monday, the phone rings again. Now I want to explain why this hits seniors differently than it hits younger people, because this part is important and often misunderstood. It is not that you are weaker, it is that your body requires longer recovery windows. When someone in their 30s pushes hard for a week, they bounce back fairly quickly. When you are in your 60s or 70s, your body needs real rest to restore itself. And when that rest does not come consistently, the effects stack up faster than you would expect. Researchers now formally study something called grandparent burnout. It is a real documented condition. It shows up in cardiovascular health, in cognitive sharpness, in emotional resilience, in inflammatory markers. It is measurable, and it is widespread. The reason grandparents do not stop is because saying no feels like saying no to the grandchildren themselves. And sometimes there is a genuine worry underneath it all. If I am not there, who will be? Those are real feelings. But consider this. The version of you that is rested, healthy, and whole is a fundamentally better grandparent than the version of you running on empty. You deserve to actually enjoy those kids, not just endure the calls. Now we are getting into the two patterns that are harder to see because they are quieter. And because they are quiet, they do damage for a long time before anyone notices. The third thing is becoming what I would call the emotional landing pad for your adult children. The place where everything gets dropped. Here is the specific picture. Your daughter calls upset about her husband. You listen for 45 minutes. You comfort her. You help her see different angles. She feels better, says she loves you, and hangs up. And you sit there. For the rest of the afternoon, you are still carrying it. You are replaying the conversation. You are worried about her marriage. You are running through scenarios in your head. She has moved on with her day. You have not. And this is not just one call. It is your son too when work is hard. It is multiple children, sometimes in the same week. Each of them offloads something. Each of them leaves lighter, and you absorb what they leave behind. Here is why this matters physically. When you care deeply about someone and you cannot fix what is hurting them, your nervous system responds almost identically to the way it would if you were in the crisis yourself. It does not fully distinguish between my child is suffering and I am suffering. It just activates. And if that activation is happening weekly, and sometimes multiple times a week, your nervous system never fully resets. It never returns to a true resting state. It stays partially braced, partially vigilant, always waiting for the next weight to arrive. Over time, a nervous system that never resets shows up in your body as disrupted sleep, elevated blood pressure, weakened immunity, and a kind of mental fatigue that looks exactly like accelerated aging from the outside. I want to name why people do not stop, because it is not simple. Being needed feels like being loved. And for many seniors, particularly those whose whole identity was built around being a devoted and available parent, the fear underneath all of this is, if I pull back even a little, will they stop calling? Will I lose them? That fear is real, and we are going to address it directly when we get to the solutions. The fourth pattern is the quietest one. It makes no noise. It does not happen in a single dramatic moment. It happens in small decisions, dozens of times, across ordinary days. It is consistently overriding your own needs to keep the peace with your adult children. Your son rearranges your plans during a visit without asking. You had things you wanted to do. You do not mention it. You adjust. Your daughter makes a comment about your health choices and it stings. You let it pass. You change the subject. You are asked to do something you do not want to do, something that does not sit right with you, and you do it anyway because the alternative is conflict, and conflict feels like it threatens the relationship. Each of these moments taken alone seems small, manageable, even mature, like you are being the bigger person. But here is what is actually happening across hundreds of these moments over years. Every time you override your own instincts and your own needs, you send your nervous system a message. What you feel does not matter here. Your comfort is not worth protecting. Researchers call what happens next learned helplessness. It is when the brain has been taught through repeated experience that its own signals lead nowhere, that expressing a need produces nothing, so it begins to stop expecting its needs to be met at all. That state is directly linked to higher rates of depression in seniors, to measurably reduced immune function, and this part is significant, it is one of the strongest predictors researchers have found of accelerated cognitive decline. I want to be honest with you, this does not mean every senior who avoids conflict will experience all of these things. People are different, and some degree of accommodation in any relationship is completely normal. But when it is a consistent pattern, when you are almost always the one who adjusts, absorbs, and says nothing, that consistency has a real cost. The reason it is so common in this generation is not weakness. It is the values people were raised with. That keeping peace was a virtue, that family came first, that needing things for yourself was somehow selfish. Those values were not entirely wrong. But applied without any limits, they cause harm, and you deserve to know that. We are just past the halfway point, and before we move into the second half, I want to say something clearly. None of what I just described makes you a bad parent. These four patterns do not come from weakness or poor judgment. They come from love, from devotion, from decades of caring about people who matter to you more than almost anything. But love without any limits is not sustainable. And what I am about to share is not about loving your children less. It is about making sure there is still enough of you left to love them well. If you are finding value in this conversation, subscribe to this channel. This is what we do here: honest, practical, real conversations about living well after 60. No lectures, no talking down to you, just the truth, with some care behind it. Now let us keep going. Before I walk you through the 5 limits, I want to reframe the word itself. Because I think for a lot of people, especially in this generation, the word limit sounds like rejection, like coldness, like pulling away from the people you love. That is not what this is. A limit is a declaration that you also matter. It is not a wall between you and your children. It is the floor beneath your own feet. And when that floor holds, everyone in the relationship stands on something more solid, including them. These 5 things work together as a system. They are not 5 separate tips you apply randomly. Each one addresses a different drain, and the 5th one is what keeps the other 4 from slowly drifting back over time. Let me show you what I mean. The first limit is what I call the financial firewall. Here is what this looks like in practice. And I want to be realistic because this is not about cutting your children off or pretending you do not have resources. You sit down privately, without pressure, and you answer 2 questions honestly. First, what amount can I genuinely give in a year without compromising my own financial security? Not what feels generous, not what makes the problem disappear. What is actually sustainable for me without cost to my retirement, my healthcare, my ability to live with some stability? Second, under what conditions will I give it? Is this a gift or a loan with a real conversation attached? Is this for genuine emergencies only or ongoing support? Where exactly is the line? You do not need to share this with anyone. You just need it to exist in your own mind, written down, ideally. Because in the moment when your child is stressed and the guilt is rising, you will not be able to think clearly. The firewall does the thinking for you. When the conversation comes, here is language that actually works. Something like, I love you and I want to support you. Here is what I am honestly able to do, and after that, I need you to find another path. Not because I do not care, but because I have to protect what I have. I hope you understand that. Now, will this feel uncomfortable the first time? Yes. Will your child be disappointed or even upset in the moment? Possibly. This does not fix everything immediately, but over time, it changes what people expect of you, and that change protects both of you. What this gives you back is sleep, real sleep, the kind that comes when you are not running quiet financial calculations at 2 a.m. That alone is one of the most powerful things you can do for your health at this stage of life. The second limit is the shift from on-call to scheduled. And I want you to understand that these are genuinely different things, not just for your calendar, but for your nervous system. Being on call means your week belongs to someone else's unpredictability. Being scheduled means your time is yours, with designated windows you choose to give. The conversation might sound something like, I love being with the kids, and I want to keep doing that. Going forward, I can do Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those are the days I can really be present for them. For anything outside of that, I need to know ahead of time so I can plan around my appointments and my own week. I will be a much better grandparent if I am not running on empty. Will they push back? Some will not. And you will still occasionally stretch for a genuine emergency. That is fine, that is human. But the default changes. And the default is what determines the pattern over time. What you get back is something you may have forgotten you are allowed to have, a week that belongs to you, predictability, real recovery time, and the ability to genuinely look forward to those days with the grandchildren instead of dreading the next call. The third limit is the emotional redirect, and this one requires the most care because it touches something deep. The goal is not to stop being there for your children emotionally, it is to stop being the only place their emotions go. That distinction matters. When the conversation starts moving toward that long, heavy call that will leave you carrying something that is not yours to carry, you can say something like, I hear you and I love you. I can tell this is weighing on you. I have to be honest. I am not sure I am the right person to help you work through this one. I care about you too much to be neutral, and I think you need someone who can really help you find a way forward. Have you thought about talking to someone? A counselor? A friend who is closer to the situation? I want the best for you. This response does not close a door. It redirects with care. You are not saying I do not want to hear about your life. You are saying I want more for you than what I can offer in this moment. And look, this will not land perfectly every time. Some conversations will still go long. Some calls will still leave you carrying more than you wanted to. This works over time, as you get more comfortable saying it, and as your children gradually learn what to expect from you. That shift is gradual, but it is real. What you get back is a nervous system that gets to come home to itself, emotional energy that stays in your own life, and relationships with your children that are built on something healthier than you slowly emptying yourself out for them. The fourth limit does not require a script. It requires a pause. Before you say yes to anything that is going to cost you, your time, your energy, your peace, your money, your sense of self, practice one question. Just one. Would I want someone to ask this of me? Not can I do this? You can do a lot of things that cost you. Not should I do this? That question gets tangled in obligation too fast. Would I want someone to ask this of me? If the answer is no, that is your answer. And you are allowed to say it simply. Something like, that is not going to work for me, or I need to sit this one out. Warm, calm, clear. The moment you start over-explaining, you have opened a negotiation. And in negotiations with the people who know us best, we almost always end up talking ourselves into the yes we were trying to avoid. I also want to address the fear underneath this directly, because I hear it all the time. If I start doing this, my kids will think I do not care. Or they will pull away. In most cases, not all, but most, the opposite happens. People respect those who respect themselves. When you hold a quiet, consistent line, people adjust to it. The relationship does not fall apart, it recalibrates. And that recalibration, uncomfortable as it feels at first, usually leads to something more honest and more mutual than what you had before. The fifth limit is the one that holds everything else together. Because limits without regular attention drift. Old patterns come back quietly. The on-call babysitting creeps back in. The financial help gets a little more frequent. The long calls start going longer, and before you know it, you are back where you started and without ever consciously deciding to go there. The weekly energy audit is 10 minutes every Sunday, or whatever day works for you. No special system required. Just a quiet few minutes and 4 honest questions. Where did my energy go this week? Did I get it back, or did I give out more than I recovered? What cost me the most, and did I choose that cost, or did it just happen to me? What is one thing next week that is only for me, that I am going to protect no matter what comes up? Write it down if you can. Not because you need a formal record, but because writing creates a level of honesty that thinking alone sometimes does not. You can talk yourself out of what you are feeling. It is harder to look at it on paper and pretend it is not there. What this practice gives you is early warning. You catch the drift before it becomes a crisis. You notice when the drain is starting to creep back in before it has cost you months of your health and energy. And there is something deeper here too. The felt sense that your life is yours, that you are making actual choices, not just absorbing whatever comes, is one of the most powerful signals your body receives for healthy aging. A brain that feels a sense of agency, that believes its life has direction it is actually influencing, activates protective systems against cognitive decline, depression, cardiovascular disease, and immune dysfunction. 10 minutes on a Sunday. That is the exchange. I think it is more than worth it. I want to close with something I hope stays with you after this video ends. The seniors who age well, who remain present, sharp, and genuinely alive in their 70s and 80s and beyond, are not the ones who gave the most. They are not the ones who sacrificed most completely or asked the least for themselves. They are the ones who protected enough of themselves to keep giving without running dry. Loving your adult children well does not mean making yourself smaller for them. It does not mean funding instability you cannot afford, absorbing crises that are not yours to carry, erasing your own needs, and holding a smile over all of it. It means being healthy enough to show up, rested enough to be truly present, stable enough to enjoy the people you love rather than just surviving the relationships. You raised your children. You gave them years, real years, full years of your attention, your resources, your devotion. That chapter is complete. What comes next is not a sequel where you slowly disappear. It is a different chapter, one that belongs to you. These 5 limits are not about doing less for the people you love. They are about making sure you are still here, genuinely here, to love them for as long as possible. You deserve that, not someday. Now, if something in this video named something you have been carrying but could not quite put into words, share it with someone you think needs to hear it, because the person watching this is rarely the only one in their family quietly living it. And if you have not subscribed yet, please do that now. This is what we do here. Honest, real, practical conversations about living well after 60. No fluff, no talking down to you, just the truth, with some care behind it. The next video builds directly on what we covered today. I will see you there.